Well, hello, welcome to the live stream. This is a live stream about making the most out of guides, and it's really your guide to guides within Logos Bible software. And whether you're watching live or perhaps as I'm building the channel, you're tuning in later on down the road, just thank you for watching. And if you like the content I'm doing here, click subscribe. Also, go to preacherprep.com. I upload articles and all the videos, and I send out a weekly subscriber email that has subscriber only training. So if you're interested in getting that, I don't put it on the YouTube for everybody to see. I don't put it on the website for everybody to see. It's only for subscribers. I send that out every Friday. So if you're interested in that, go to preacherprep.com and sign up to become a subscriber. All right, so tonight what we're doing is we are getting into guides. And what guides are in Logos Bible software, guides are your personal research assistant. That's how they function. You've got all the books in your library. You've got some tools within Logos, and Logos wants to really become your personal research assistant, and the guides are one of the best ways to do it. So to open up the guide menu, we've got this right here. It's a compass. I always thought it looked like a airline, an airplane, the propeller on the front. But this is the guides menu, and when I click on it, it's going to open up a lot of different things. So we have workflows, which we're not talking about tonight. We're talking about guides. And underneath the workflow section, you see guides and custom guides. And then you see all these different other sorts of guides: Bible reference guide, topic guides, word guides, sermon theme guides, theology guides, and counseling guides. At the top of the guides section, under guides, we have 7 different guides. And I want to say up front that most of these are going to come, I think, in starter. But all of the features of the guides may not be until you get like into the silver pack. And so the silver feature set. Once you get into the silver feature set, you have access to almost all the things within Logos. There's just a little bit more in gold, but they don't affect what we're doing in guides. And so as I go along, if you're like, hey, I don't really see that feature within the guide, the reason is you may be at like the starter and you need to update to bronze or even silver. But you get almost all the guides within, I think, starter. The only one you don't is the counseling guide, but there's 7 guides: exegetical passage, sermon starter, theology topic, Bible word, and counseling. And before I go through what each of these do, down here at the bottom we have a custom guide section. So I'm going to show you how to create a custom guide, and then under here you have these 6 different sections: Bible reference guide all the way down to counseling guide. These different sections, so like this concordant intertext or the concordance guide or favorite resources collect, all of this stuff shows up within these guides. So these sections down here, custom Bible reference guide, all this stuff, ancient literature, atlas, biblical events, biblical people, all these things, no matter what section they are in, they make up these guides. So it's like mini guides within the guides, and these are the big guides. So we've got, and so what I want to do is I want to go briefly give an overview of what each guide does, and then I want to talk about the 3 guides that I use the most. And then I want to close our time by talking about custom guides and give you maybe some insight into creating a couple custom guides of your own that you can find most helpful. Because one of the best things about Logos is the ability to create your own guide, and it really does become your personal research assistant. So we've got 7 of these guides. The first one is the exegetical guide, and anytime you hover your mouse over one of these headings, you're able to get insight into what that feature, what that guide does. So the exegetical guide steps through a passage in the original languages word by word. And I'm going to open that one up, and I'll just do John 1:1. And then what we've got here, let me collapse all these. What we've got are those different smaller sections that I showed you just a moment ago within the guide menu. So like down here, they're going to show up in these different areas. So like word guides, we have all these different word guide sections. We've got right here like word by word, important words, lemon passage, ancient literature, In fact, let me do one thing. I want to make sure that the exegetical guide is reset to default. Okay, there we go. It's looking kind of sparse because you can actually update your regular guides to make them how you want, and I want to show you what comes out of the box. So if you have the exegetical guide, you can type in any passage, and Logos is going to return these different sections to you depending on what's in your feature package. And the idea of the exegetical guide is to work exegetically through whatever text you're looking for. So again, think research assistant. It's for the exegetical guide, it's bringing back your content. It's bringing back textual variants. And if you ever wonder, hey, what does one of these mean? You can always, on the right-hand side, there's a question mark. You can always hover over it, or you can click on it and it open up the help file. But there you're going to be able to see what the textual variants section is. And it says right there, it's available in the exegetical guide. And when I open it, it has all these different sections of textual commentaries, apparatuses, different editions, transcriptions. And what it's doing is it's bringing stuff from my library about John 1:1 of textual variants to me, which is pretty incredible when you think about what's happening. So you have textual variants. And again, we're just doing a 30,000 foot view, enough to get you started. And then we're going to show how to create your custom guide and some directions for that. This word by word section, I love this because what you get in the word by word is Logos takes you word by word through whatever passage you're in, and it lets you do all the deep dive grammatical stuff. And so right here, we've got John 1:1, and it's got this word highlighted, beginning, which is this Greek word, arche, which means beginning ruler. I don't know if you'll hear this.
Arche.
I don't know if you heard that or not, but when you press that megaphone, it
Arche.
tells you how to say that word, arche, and then it tells you the more information right there, noun, dative, singular, feminine, the sense, and then you have access to your lexicons and dictionaries that have that information about that word. And so in the word by word section, you're able to go through each word within that verse. There we go. And so let's say Logos right there. When I've got that chosen, in the beginning was the word. I can see that it is that word right there. So we're there, Logos word, and all that same information. We get the word, the message. We get all the information about that word, the sense of the word, and then you can just click on one of your resources right there, and it's going to bring you that information, BDAGs right there. And so really, really helpful to be able to have the word by word if you're just wanting to go through the words. Again, this is exegetical information. Grammatical constructions. This lists interesting grammatical phenomena that appear in the guide's key passage. So sometimes you get things within the guide, and sometimes you don't, depending on what's in your library. But there's different grammatical construction information about that text. So grammatical construction, important words. This is probably one of my favorite sections out of all the guides, because what the important words section does is, out of all of the library in Logos, not just my library, your library, but all of the books in Logos, particularly the commentaries, the developer said, what are the most talked about words in this passage, in all of the commentaries, in all of the library? And so what it is Logos is the number one word talked about in Logos's library, out of all the books, in this passage, out of John 1:1. And when I click Lemma in Passage, it's going to open up this section, this Lemma in Passage guide. And right here, when it's got Lemma in Passage, I'm able to go to all of my commentaries that deal with that word, Logos, specifically in John 1:1. Is that not cool? I mean, it brings you that stuff right to you. And so you're able to, just remember, in the important words, click on that Lemma in Passage, and it's going to bring it right to you. And then you get all this information of all these different books. If you see the other Lemma section, same thing, But the word, I believe these are words that may not be used just in John 1 1, which is what that is. So we have other lemmas. This is Logos in John 2. Remember, our exegetical guide is on John 1 1. So fantastic. Lemma in passage. Is actually the this section here that we just showed you, lemma in passage, and so you're able to get it both ways, whether the lemma in passage or the important words. Important passages are going to show you all different sorts of things related to its important passages connected to the text. So right here we've got Genesis 1 1. It's a creation, it's in the beginning, and then it's also the lexicon. You can change this. So you could say, I want to see all my commentaries, important passages. So you're going to be able to see how different verses are connected to John 1 1, if you're doing this kind of search, just based on your commentaries. You've got shared, if you're in like a certain passage, you're going to see shared parables, shared miracles, theophanies. So, really cool section, the important section. Ancient literature, I believe this is, you have to have silver package feature to do this, but you get all the different ancient literature that talk about John 1 1 right there. So Apostolic Fathers. And I can click on it and it's going to open up in my library and I'm going to have all that information. So you're able to see if you have ancient literature, word by word, it's going to show you John 1 1. Your commentary, so this you're going to see some sections show up in multiple places, but you have your commentary section. I'm going to come back to this in just a few moments. You also have journals, so journals become powerful in Logos because all that information comes straight to you. So these are all journals that deal with John 1 1. And notice it's not just John 1 1 specifically, but like right here, it's John 1 1 through 18. And so love the journal section within the guides. Then you have grammar. So you have all your, I mean, it's just incredible. You can do such a deep dive. I would not know how to use half of these books if they were sitting on my shelves, but because Logos brings them straight to me. But the grammar section, what that does is that lists articles from Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic grammar books that mention the guide's key reference. And then the results are sorted into subjects based on a computer analysis of the material. So you're able to just play around with this, go through the different guides, grammars, and then visualization, and like sentence diagrams right there, John 1 1, it's visualized with a diagram. So that in a nutshell is the exegetical guide. Let's keep going on. Let me clear all this off and start fresh. The next, after your exegetical guide, is your passage guide. And I'm not going to go through all these different sections because I want to get done before Jesus gets here. But the passage guide, the exegetical guide, works word by word through a passage of Scripture. The passage guide looks at a passage of Scripture. And so I reverted this one back to its original state. So this is out of the box. But this, what this is doing is this is saying all the things connected with right now Luke 17, which is what I recently taught on. And just got a question in the chat about what level of Logos do you need to access journals. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can answer that in once we make a transition. I'll be looking for that information, and if someone else knows that and is able to put that in the chat, that is helpful. But I'll answer that before we go. So in this section, again, right here, notice commentaries and journals. Sometimes you'll see that sections, these kind of guides within guides, they're going to show up in multiple guides because what you're doing, you have this big guide, whether it's exegetical, passage, Bible word study, and then within that you have the mini guides, and all of those show up within these sections at the bottom, like topic guides, word guides. All of this is making this stuff up here. So you're going to see things in the same thing in multiple places. But the idea in the passage guide is when you type in a passage, you're getting a holistic look at the passage. And so you're able to, all the things from like biblical places, people, things, events, your atlas, just anything contextually connected with the text, your passage guide is going to be key. And I would say, in my experience, the passage guide is probably the most popular one of the most populars within Logos Bible software. After the passage guide, we have the sermon starter guide. And I want to hover there for just a minute. This gathers useful information for preparing a sermon on a passage or topic. And what's cool about this one is you can type in a passage or topic. So I could say John 1:1. And again, notice what's up here, commentaries. So you're going to see some of the same things in each of the guides. But the idea is that it's just getting you started with a sermon based on a theme or topic. So I'll type in even hope as a theme. And then this information changes a little bit depending on what you're searching, whether it's passage or keyword. And so that's the sermon starter guide. I think the sermon starter guide is great for someone starting maybe a small group study and they're not really sure. This is very, very helpful because, like you can hear when I've got hope, we've got if you've got sermons and sermon outlines in your library, you've got sermon outlines available to you. You've got sermons from Logos, which you should be able to have that at any level within your library. If you've got sermons, you're going to have sermons that are tagged with that word hope right there coming to you. So the sermon starter grade, I think, is great for someone starting like a Sunday school class topic or maybe a passage. Very cool stuff. The next one after the sermon starter guide is the theology guide. And the theology guide is going to curate information. This is a shorter guide. Is like the passage guide is long, but the theology guide is a little bit shorter. And what you've got up here is you've got the topic. This is going to be an article, usually from the Lexham Survey of Theology. Then you have theologically related passages. And then you have recommended reading. So books that have been tagged on that topic in theology are going to show up. Some I own, some I don't own. And then you have your systematic theologies section, which is really, really cool because it's going to bring stuff from your systematic theology books straight to you about all the different things that you want to search. So right here we have 103 results and 102 articles. 14 systematic theology books are coming for me on this issue of baptism of the Holy Spirit. And you can change it so I can just see my books like this, and I can go to one and open it up and just get going. So I used the systematic theology and the biblical theology section recently when I was in Luke chapter 17 at the end of the chapter, like 20 through 37, and Jesus is talking really about his crucifixion, but also the eschaton, his second coming. And so I was using the theology books to find what information in my theology books do I have about Luke 17. So that's the theology guide. After the theology guide is the topic guide, where you can do any topic, and hopefully you'll notice like biblical places, people, and events. These are the same things that we had within the passage guide, but notice these are not going to be connected to a person. These are going to be connected. I don't know if we'll have any. There we go. These are not going to be connected to just one passage. These are going to be connected to different ideas. But the idea is that you're working through a particular topic. And then we've got the Bible word study. This is another powerful one. This one works for Greek, English, Hebrew. If I type in the word love, you're going to get all this information related to the word love. And like this lemma ring, this is so popular because I typed in the word love. This is the Greek lemma ring, and here are all the different words for love used in the New American Standard Bible. You can click on one of them, have the list of verses right there, so you're able to do like a quick compare of how different words are going to be used. And this is one of those instances in the Bible word study and the exegetical guide where I don't think everything comes in the starter package. So if you see something here and you're like, I think the lemma rings may be a little bit higher than just the starter, but if you upgrade, you will have access to it. So that's the Bible word study. That is one of the most popular guides. And then finally, the last one is the counseling guide. This was recently released. I think it was with Logos 9, May have been Logos 10. But basically, you can type in any word, and Logos will give you suggestions, and you're going to get all this information. Let's collapse all this information as a personal research assistant related to this theme. And one of the cool things that I love about it is Logos includes this quick reference guide to biblical counseling. And I think this is in the silver package. When I click on anxiety, you're going to get just a wealth of information, and you can write in when you do assessment and counseling. You may not want to use that feature, but you absolutely can. And just a very cool feature to be able to open up. I've used this to grab like passages on the right hand side, and to get because you're always going to have like here action steps, biblical insights. That's the section I'm talking about, and that's always connected to the counseling guide in the counseling topic. But you type in like anxiety, you're going to get related counseling topics, passages, dictionaries in your library that have that information. There's the journal section again, lectures if you have any, and so on and so forth. So that is a 30,000 foot view of guides. Now to the meat of what we're talking about. I want to talk about really my favorite guides and how to put together a custom guide, because what I want to encourage you to do is to begin to think about how you can customize your guide process. So for instance, one of the ways that I often think about sermon preparation is by asking 3 different questions. What does the text say? So I'm looking at all the exegetical stuff of what does the text, what's this say? What's this mean? And then the second question is, so what difference does it make? So I'm trying then to, first I'm looking at the head. What does the head say? And then secondly, I'm looking at the heart. So what difference does it make in my heart that this information is there? And then the third question is, now what am I supposed to go do with it? Or what do I want God's people to do with it? What's the call to action? And so I've got the head, the hands, heart, and you might want to create a passage guide based on kind of those 3 standards of, I want to put the different guides in there to talk about what the text says, and then I want to have a section in there about what difference does it make, and then I want to have a final section about what I'm supposed to do with it, maybe through illustrations. And all right, so that's one idea that you might do. Let's start to put one together. All right, so I'm in the guide section right here, and this is so easy to miss. It took me forever to find it, and I'm going to move my fat head out of the way. Right down here in the right hand corner, let me make that just a little bit smaller. There we go, and put my head back in view. We've got this new button, and right there you can make a guide or a workflow, and for our purposes, I want to make a guide. And right here, it's going to ask you for several things. It's going to say, what do you want to title the guide? So I'm just going to call this Preacher Prep. The second thing you have to decide after you say what kind of guide, and everything automatically saves. There's no save button. Anytime you do anything in this guide editor, it's automatically going to show up in your guide section. So right here, we have a custom guide section. When I scroll down, I've got Preacher Prep. That's the one I just made. Now, we've got to decide what kind of guide do we want. Do we want a Bible reference, which means you're going to be able to put a Bible reference in the search bar, just like all your other guides. Do you want a counseling topic, sermon theme, theology topic, or word? So for me, I like the Bible reference guide. Now, the third thing that we have to decide is what sections do we want to go in the guide? And that's what we have here on the right-hand side. So you can say up at the top, you can say, I want all the sections from the exegetical guide or the passage guide. You can also combine them, and all you have to do is click on it and they're automatically going to add. I don't want to do that because I don't want to have to delete all of them. But like this ancient literature, let's say I want to start with ancient literature. Right there, I've clicked on it. It's now in the guide as ancient literature. Let's say I've created some, I want my commentary section, and right here we could say I want to see 20 commentaries, and it's going to give you in your commentaries if you have collections of commentaries that you want to do. I'm just going to keep all commentaries because I want to show that section one more time. But you could also have a collections, and this means I'm going to like have my favorite authors collection. So I made a collection of favorite authors. Now I've got that collection, my commentary section, my ancient literature. Maybe I want to have the important words because I like that section. And you can just go through. These are all these individual sections, within the guide menu. And so I'm showing you how to make this, and then I'm going to talk about the guides that I've put together and that I use all the time, that I think are very, very helpful. So once we've made this Preacher Prep, I'm going to get rid of it, and then I'm going to go back to my guides, and I'm going to open up the Preacher Prep guide, and it looks like all the other guides, doesn't it? So it says Preacher Prep. I'm going to type in John 1:1, and notice I've got all the sections we just made, ancient literature. If you ever have it scrolling way down and you're like, oh, this is too long, I need to have everything concise and brief, you right click on the arrow next to one, and you got options. You can collapse it, you can move down, or you can collapse all. I want to collapse all. And now all 4 sections that we put into this guide just a moment ago are now available right there. And so we've got ancient literature, commentaries, collections, important words. So let's just open them up. So in the ancient literature, this is what we talked about just a moment ago. This is all the ancient literature in my library, and maybe there may be some things that aren't in the library, but it'll give you the option to purchase if you want. But like Chrysostom, homily 2 on John 1:1, right there. And so this is it just amazes my mind that I've got a fairly good sized library, and it just brings it to me. But that's what the ancient literature section is, and then underneath that we've got commentaries. Now I do want to pause here and go through the commentary section, because it is one of the best reasons to own Logos is the commentaries and the way they work. And in the commentary section in any of the guides, this list these are all the commentaries I've got in my library that have to deal with John 1:1. And the reason it says priority is because those have been prioritized in my library. And I believe there's another video on the channel about that, about how to prioritize resources. But Logos lets them show up this way because, like, I've got this NICNT, New International Commentary on the New Testament by Leon Morris as my prioritized commentary. It's way up at the top. I also love this Zondervan Exegetical Commentary on the New Testament. Right there, I've got it towards the top pillar. I love those commentaries. So all that brings right to me because it's prioritized. I get to see them at the top. Next, we have series. And so we're able to see different series. It's a little bit more, there we go. Someone said platinum and over. But let me check on that, because I think you can get journals. Let me check on that, but I appreciate that comment in the chat. All right, so but we've got the different series. So if you're able to think, I don't know who the author is, but I remember the series. So I remember it's like the Baptist Commentary series by John Gill, 1809, classic. You're able to see it right there. The author, you have a list of all your authors. So if you have a favorite one you're looking for, you're able to filter it out that way. Your denomination. It's important to note that on the denomination section of the commentary, this is not written from the publisher's perspective, but it also but it's from the author's perspective. And here's the thing we got to remember when we see this, and you go through one of these sections, and you're like, I don't know if like this person would go in this section. Logos does the best they can. So if you see some crossover and you see some things that you're like, I don't know if that's where, they're doing the best they can on it. There's no perfect system, because I don't know anybody who fits in a perfect box. I assume none of us do. Then you have type. So these are all the different types of your commentaries. So everything from your apparatus commentaries to your application, exegetical, expositional, homiletical. You're able to just it'll organize it for you, so you're able to find the information that you want. And then by era. So for Logos's purposes, contemporary is 1960 to present. So this is everything past 1960. Modern would be 1700 to 1959. Isn't that wonderful? I just love that. Modern is 1700 to 1959. Reformation period, 1517, 1699. Medieval, Nicene, and then those that are not categorized that way, and I don't have any for this particular search. For collections, I've got a collection of my favorite authors, like John Stott, N.T. Wright, all those people. They're in a collection of that. And anytime they write and use one of these words, it shows up right here in that resource. And so you're able to uh, see what your favorite authors or favorite books or whatever you want to see have to do with this collection. So, and then the important words, which we've already talked about. So, the three guides that I use the most, I use the passage guide all the time. And I use the Bible Word Study, the exegetical. I kind of put those in one category, the kind of the standard. But then there's a couple others that I think are very helpful. One, I've got a slimmed down passage guide that does not have all the things that the like passage guide has, um, but uh, they these are things that are important to me. So it's really slimmed down because there's things in the passage guide. Let me just open up the passage guide that I'm not going to go through every time. And here's the thing about Logos. You don't have to go through it every time. People say all the time, well, I only feel like I only use 10% of Logos. That's okay. You do what you can to study. And but like I don't go down here to the music section ever. And so I don't need that in my slim down passage guide. And I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sections. And so there we go. And so those are the only things when I'm using my slim down passage guide. I've got your content, which means anything that I've written about Luke 17, which is the passage, is going to show up here in your content. The important words section that we've already talked about. Those are the important words. I've got a favorite authors collection. I've got favorite commentaries collection. I have sermons. I love the sermons in Logos, and there's all the sermons about Luke 17. I have parallel passages, and so this gives parallel passages a quick way to see is that verse, is that passage in anywhere else within usually the gospel, or sometimes you see that in the Old Testament, like in Kings and Chronicles. But it's parallel passages. Again, the systematic theology. I was in Luke 17 the other day. I went to my eschatology, and right here it's got like it tells me Baptist and Methodist, tells me what tradition it comes from, but I'm able to see different systematic theology books about Luke 17 and eschatology. But I also go to my biblical theology books and I look at the eschatology section and get all sorts of information that is helpful. So, because Luke 17 has eschatology in it, I think in verse 20 through 37. I keep two different concordance sections. I keep an inner text, which is usually allusions. Most of the New Testament are allusions. But I've got allusions, so I'm seeing where verses in the passage are alluded to in the Old Testament for further study. And then I've got wordplay. I think this was released in Logos 10, but things like alliteration, ironic wordplay, I just find that fascinating. And they point things to me that I would have never seen in the text without this concordance wordplay. And then I've got an illustration section. Illustration books become powerful in Logos because you're able to have illustrations directly related to whatever you're searching for. And so if I'm preparing a sermon, I generally start here or the passage guide. And so kind of the big three: passage guide, exegetical guide, Bible word study guide. But then the second thing is I use a slimmed down passage guide. So I'm not doing all the things. And then the other one that I want to show you, and I'm seeing comments about the journal stuff. Don't call customer service yet, Brian. Let me go through it. I think I may have a reason why, and if not, I want to figure out why you don't have a journal section. And so maybe if even as we're going through this, Brian, if you could pull up your Logos and see if you can create a custom guide and add the journal section. And then the other thing you can do is go into your library and type journal. Yeah, type journal and see if you get any journals, because if you're at platinum, you should be getting that information for sure. So I'm a little surprised, and maybe you do need to call customer service. All right, so the last guide that I want to talk about, and this is probably if you've not seen this before, It's a little interesting way to put a guide. This is my favorites concordance tool guide, and I've got 4 different concordances. And what the concordance tool does is, and you can add more concordances to it. But right here I've got 4. So I've got concordance wordplay, which we saw in the slim down passage guide. Concordance command, which shows me all the commands within that section, whatever passage I'm searching. I've got a concordance for prayer. So are there any prayers within the concordance? And then I've got one that shows me all the questions. So quickly, let's build a concordance guide because this is useful stuff. So I'm going to go back to my guide menu. I'm going to click new, make a new guide, and I want to call this Preacher Prep Concordance. And now over here, we're going to find the concordance, and I want to make sure it's Bible reference. I'm going to go to concordance, and it's going to ask me, list this kind of data. Here's the key. You have all these options to create a concordance guide. So you could say, I want to know all the commands. Okay, so we've got that one set up, just like I have in my concordance guide. I'm going to add another one, concordance. And I want to see if there are any figures of speech. All right, got that one. And we're going to add another concordance, if I can spell right there. And we want to see if there are any, let's see, all the speech, and maybe do one more. I mean, there's just so much here. We could even do, really just depends. We'll do figurative language. Did I do that one already? Nope. All right, so we've got this. I'm going to open up that guide. We're going to call it the Preacher Prep Concordance. And let's see how much we get in Luke 17 again. So I'm going to collapse all these so we can work through them. So we've already seen the command. Those are all the commands in Luke 17. Below that, we have, these are figures of speech related to Luke 17. And here's the cool thing about Logos. Let's say you come across a word that you don't know. You can open up the fact book, and I can't say this works all the time because I actually have not tried this for all the different words, but you're able to click on that entry. So for this word right here, I typed it in the fact book, and then it says it's a figure of speech that uses intentional understatement to downplay the importance of something. So if you ever find a word, you don't have to Google it. You can just open up the fact book, and most of the time there's an entry related to what I'm searching for. But we get different figures of speech, just so much there in Luke 17. We get different speech. So these are basically quotes within Logos in Luke 17. And then we get the figurative language. And anything that is blue is you're able to click on it and open it. So I love having a concordance guide. It doesn't take me a long time to go through let me open up my guide, concordance guide, favorite concordance tools. It doesn't take me a long time to go through these 4 different sections, but every once in a while, there'll just be like a nugget that's in that favorite concordant tool guide that's, oh yeah, I can use that, or that makes the text more meaningful to me. And so I want to encourage you to put maybe a concordance guide together. So that in a nutshell is we've been going, 40 minutes. So I'm going to check the chat real quick. And one question is, do you have any videos on how to use the Cascadia syntax graphs? The short answer is no. And believe it or not, I've been working with that feature for a while now because I think it's an important feature, and I want to make more videos that are helpful. So I'm going to keep working that one. I've not made a video on it yet because my confidence with it is not that high. So like when I'm making a video, I run into a lot of errors that I've got to slow down. And I have like 4 semesters of Greek. Most stuff is like over my head on that, but I can use the tools in the Logos. So I'm working on that, and I've got it added to the list, and I think it's an important one that a lot of people aren't talking about. Brian, you say there's library type journal, no results. When I see that, it says type : no space journal. Do you have, if you take the space out in it, does it show up with any types of journals? I'm going to open up mine and just, in fact, let me make right there. So for the most part, anytime you do a search, you're always going to have like type colon and then no space in between. And right there, I've got all my journals. So I'm going to wait just a moment. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or maybe your favorite guide. I'd love to be able to. Did that work? Brian says yes. Oh, that's awesome if that's how that works. And then to add that section, I'm just going to open up one of my guides. Here's a good way. Let's say you make a guide. How do you edit it? You want to come back to it and edit it later. So I'm going to come down to my preacher prep guide that we just made. Right click on it, edit it, and before I do that, if you say pin to top, it's gonna that's how it gets up in this top section here. And so that's kind of a cool tip. All right, so I'm going to edit this one, and then I want to come down here so I can edit. I can add sections right here where it says journals. When I click on that, the journal should be added. And again, everything's going to depend what books and resources you have in your library. But if I open up the Preacher Prep thing and type John 1:1, now the journal section is open and all my journals come straight to me. But it's only showing one journal that is not. So I wonder, Brian, I don't know this for sure, and maybe you and I can talk later. I wonder if you've got, like whatever you're searching, there's nothing tagged in that section that would work within the guide. I don't know that for sure, but that may be what have happened. And so I would play around with different types of searches, different types of passages, and see what comes up for you as you search, and maybe that would help. So, all right, well, I'm going to check the chat one more time and see if anybody has any questions. And want to encourage you as we begin to close up, check out preacherprep.com. It's just a passion project of mine. Even though it's preacherprep.com, anybody who's wanting to learn Logos, that's my passion, because it's not about just learning the tools. I really believe it's one of the best tools to help us in spiritual formation and Bible study, and to have access to all the resources. It's absolutely incredible. So preacherprep.com, sign up for the weekly roundup if you want. I'm going to keep making videos. I've got a live stream, going to do another thing this Sunday, and you can check out on the channel and see what I've got live stream scheduled. So just check out on YouTube what the live streams are, and join me. If not, it's okay, because I'm making these to upload for content in longer form for those who like it. And if you have any questions, you can always email me at preacherpreparation@gmail.com. You can go to preacherprep.com and find the contact information then. And until next time, I'll talk to you later.